Welcome to the Salty Driftwood Podcast. I'm your host, Eugene Gibson, and in today's episode, I will give you my answer to the question, are performance-enhancing drugs or stimulants still an issue in professional sports? I hope all of you under the sound of my voice are doing well, and if you aren't, I hope you're doing better. And also, still extending my prayers out to the citizen of the nation of Tonga as they still recover from that volcanic eruption, that underwater volcanic eruption the other day. Still praying for them that they recover quickly. That being said, let's get on with the topic that I'm presenting today. Well, this topic came about from basically one of the social media posts on one of the platforms that I'm a part of, where one of my contacts, after the performance of a certain athlete in a certain sport this past weekend, they were sort of like praising him. The thing is now, but all these professional athletes now, all of a sudden everybody is the greatest of all time or GOATs. And I mean, we just starting time, so I don't know how it could be. Most of them could be the greatest of all time. When time ends, that's the only time we could really figure out if they're the greatest of all time. And I sure at that time, that'll be the least of our worries or our concern. But anyway, this person was what they call it, extolling the performance and the past performance of this athlete, and I gave a contradictory opinion to why he's been performing so well. Right? So, that being said, when I talk about professional sports, right, let me just clarify this. When I talk about professional sports, what I'm talking about is sports I'm talking about U.S. football, baseball, basketball, hockey, and football, soccer. These are the sports, with probably perhaps the exception of U.S. football, are played professionally throughout the world. Athletes are being paid to play these sports. And in quite a few instances, they are being paid pretty well, especially in the US arena. So with that's when I'm talking about professional sports. So first, before I even answer that question, performance enhancing drugs, stimulants. Most people who are familiar with sports know that in most sports, these are banned because they claim to give certain athletes, if they take them, they give athletes an unfair advantage over other athletes. In basic words, they call it cheating, and in most cases is doping, right? So athletes over the years have been caught using these substances to, to enhance their performance. But there's another aspect of it besides enhancing their performance, because during the Major League Baseball steroid scandal era, steroid was outright called steroids back then, not performance enhancing drugs or stimulants. One or two of the athletes who admitted to taking them said their performance was so high that, and the focus was so great, that I think one baseball player said he saw the baseball almost like he was swinging at a soccer ball, where he was so focused, and those drugs they were taking were making them bigger, faster, stronger. But now is another aspect of them. It not only by taking these drugs and stimulants, what they actually do besides the performance is that because a lot of these sports, the athletes are bigger and faster, and there's more and more contact, and the contact is more severe, the athletes get injured more. The injury rate has increased. So a lot of these athletes, some of these athletes who have been caught, it's suspected that they use them because these help not only for performance, but they help to speed up recovery of injury, which any athlete would want to do. First of all, you wouldn't want to get injured in the first place, right? But first of all, you want to heal from the injury, and you want to return to your sport, which is your job, as quickly as possible. So that's one of the reasons athletes have been caught, or some of the reasons why they take them and what they actually are. Further answering the question, let's look at athletics, track and field, where doping is after all these years of these athletes being caught, knowing that their samples will be frozen and tested years later for any, at that time when they test them, the stimulants or drugs they may be taken, they might have no test for them, so they freeze them and save them for later date to test them with whatever new methods or whatever coming out. So with that still being the case, athletes in this sport still doping. As a matter of fact, the Russian Federation the other day, they got 46 medals. I think they still on a ban from appearing in the Olympics. And I saw a documentary, I don't really want to give the name, where if it wasn't for the whistleblower, the Olympic Committee wouldn't really know what was going on, because the method in which they do it was such a cloak and dagger method that, even for me, I was shocked at the way they did it. I suggest if you're interested, you should watch the documentary. The best way I could tell you to find it is just, a documentary on Russian doping. And it probably will come up. I think it's on one of the major streaming platforms. So they still doing it in athletics. Now in athletics, compared to other professional sports, especially like the U.S. sports, the money for the athletes isn't there. But what is there, maybe not on the same level, but money there. But what those track and field athletes, what they benefit is, and their country is, they are treated in an elite form of manner when they represent their country and stuff like that. So their benefits basically, they get benefits. In certain countries, they treat those track and field athletes like superstars. They put up on God status almost. So the incentive in that aspect there to perform at your best, and the incentive there for cheating, doping. So now let's look at the professional sports, where these huge sums of monies and contracts and stuff is an incentive for doing such things. So you mean to tell me that it ain't there? Of course it's there. It's still there. It's still there. And that's basically my answer. Yes, it's still an issue. Because if it wasn't an issue, they wouldn't still be testing in professional sports. And the incentive is even greater now for these athletes to use them. And I will even go on and stretch and even to say some of these so-called greatest of all-time athletes, they're getting away with it for various reasons. One of the reasons, like say in the NFL, one of the athletes, he just came off of an injury, and in the playoff, he had a superb, but he came off injury, changed teams where he wasn't doing too well, and after he had a stellar performance in a game, immediately after the game, he was sent a text message that he will be tested. He always complained that he has been tested more often than athlete because the NFL has a random testing policy. Now, I don't know. One thing I've learned that you really can stimulate randomness. So I don't know how random it is, how efficient it is, based on the fact that you should have, I think, mandatory testing. But at the same time, you got to remember how these policies develop in these sports, because most of these leagues are owned by the owners of the team. They're, the commissioners and stuff. They're actually employees of the owners. So these leagues are corporations, and the commissioners and stuff are employees of the owners. And the owners get into this for profit. It's profitable to have a professional sports team. For some, like most of them owned by billionaires and stuff, that's like a side hobby with making you money. That's like a side gig for some of them. And some of them, they rushing at it full time. So that was another money making way and a hobby to make money. And most of these sports teams, they appreciating every year, and some good rates. So it's a highly profitable venture. See, for me, sports, when I was younger, I would consider myself a fanatic. But for me nowadays, sports, just entertainment. I put that up there with TV watching and movie. That's just entertainment. I don't take no more than that. I judge athletes strictly on what I see on the field. That's it. I don't really, I don't hold them as no mentors, or I admire them or whatever. I look at their skills and they entertain me. That's it. As a fan, I don't even consider myself a fan. The only way I would be invested in it if I gambling on their performance or I betting on it. That's just my opinion. I don't encourage it or condone it, but that's the only way I would be any more heavily invested in that. So I just see them as entertainment. I say that to say all this. I still think there is an issue because they still testing, and I believe some of the athletes who everyone praising, they doing it and they getting away with it because of these leagues. The owners own these leagues and the profits so high. Certain teams have, or certain organizations have sway over the sport, so they may not be under close scrutiny as other teams or other members in these organizations. I don't know all the doping policies or the drug testing policy for all the leagues, but I don't think randomness, you can't really simulate that. So I don't know how that working, but there is always an incentive to cheat. Like they used to say, I hear one saying one time in sports, if you aren't cheating, you ain't trying. I mean, that's kind of a little, but that's what they say. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. We've heard of the major scandals over the years when it came to athletes and doping, more or less. But I still think it's an issue for today, and that's my opinion. People say, well, if I have evidence, all you got to do is read some of the news reports and the findings, which seem to be repressed nowadays. Kind of easy to do it with the way information is disseminated nowadays. You could easily repress or suppress, I should say, some of those information that giving you signs that that's what's happening. But even during this time, people may still not overlook it because what we've been recently going through globally, sports. During I think it was during the Depression, horse racing became one of the biggest sport because it was a good distraction from what was actually going on. And today's sports in general is a good distraction from what's going on for the day. So things like that people may not be concerned about, but as things gradually calm down, we'll see. I believe we'll see more of it becoming an issue. Like I say, Russia's still under a ban from it, and that's just in athletics. So we can only imagine what's going on in the big money sports. And this may sound controversial or whatever, but I'm one of the. I believe that you should let them do it and just regulate it. That's because I say it for a selfish way, maybe trying to be funny, but if they could do all of that to entertain me, man, go right ahead, do it. Don't ruin yourself and don't kill yourself over it. But hey, if you doing all that to entertain me, or you doing it to make money, that's the best way you could perform to make your money, whatever. More power to you, brother, sister, or brother, sister, non-pronoun. More power for you. More power to you. That's just my opinion. I still think it's an issue. And as long as money is involved, I think it will continue to be an issue. Because that's just the way of the world. With that being said, I'll end for the day. And like I always say, be good, be real, and have a good one.